Week 1 of the fantasy football season, fellas, is in the book, and dare I say it was underwhelming. We collected your takes, though, and we'll recap them in today's show. Now, fellas, I did suggest that week 1 was potentially underwhelming for fantasy football, but that doesn't mean we went without any studs this week as well, such as Josh Allen on Sunday Night Football. First take, Josh Allen ruined my weekend. Brother, I hate to tell you you're wrong on this one. Josh Allen might have ruined your pick'em entry slips. Josh Allen might have absolutely trampled you in fantasy football if you played him this week. But that game against the Baltimore Ravens, oh, brother, that was a barn burner. What a comeback from the Buffalo Bills, 41-40. Cameron, I mean, Josh Allen clearly, like, no surprise, the quarterback 1 overall still this year, probably.
Yeah, he's done it again. This is the second straight year he's finished as the quarterback 1 overall in week 1. You know, he starts off strong. He keeps going. He won me my week in one of our dynasty leagues where I had a 90% chance to win going into the week.
Oh, here he goes.
And I almost lost it. And I still might if Justin Jefferson doesn't score 12 PPR fantasy points tonight. But he saved me 38 fantasy points, 254 passing yards in the fourth quarter. Unreal. I mean, the dude is Superman. You really can't argue it at this point. Maybe the game of the year too. So a lot of fun. But yeah, it sucks if you were playing against him. It was a lot of fun if he was on your fantasy team.
I mean, game of the year in week 1 is crazy, but we also can't ignore that at the same time. Ty, who is like the biggest standout in this game? I know like Josh Allen obviously had himself a day, 33 of 46 for 394 and 2 touchdowns, added a score on the ground as well. But I mean, Derrick Henry, 18 for 169 and 2, Zay Flowers, 7 for 143 and 1. I mean, this game, we talked about it before the week even started, was just going to be littered with fantasy points. Tons of yards to go around. And really the 2 guys, I know you asked for 1, but it's really 2 guys in my opinion. It's Zay Flowers and Keon Coleman. Zay Flowers was getting touches over the middle of the field on these deep kind of, I guess, in-breaking routes. Then he was just finding open space for days all game long. And Keon Coleman, we talked about this. He has kind of emerged out of the just vertical only role that he was in last year. He's doing a lot more out routes towards the sideline while still getting some vertical routes as well. Both of these guys kind of stood out as the go-to guys for their quarterbacks. And we were out on Zay Flowers. Some of us were out on Keon Coleman as well this year, but I think this first game really should tell us to kind of reconsider what the upside is, because the usage is a little bit different than in years past. Look, I get it. I get if Josh Allen trampled you in fantasy, he shot any chance you had left of winning your week, but I'm not going to complain about this football game. I know it stinks for fantasy football if you were on the wrong end of a Josh Allen explosion, but I'm sorry. This was phenomenal. It was a ton of fun to watch. Josh Allen, obviously a massive winner, along with the likes of Keon Coleman, the guys on the other side of the ball that we mentioned as well. Now, before we dive into the rest of your reactions, though, can we just take a moment to celebrate the people, fellas? Because 2 weeks before the season, we were sitting just about 500 subscribers away from 5,000, and I issued the challenge of, can we hit 5,000 subs? And we did before week 1 NFL Sunday. So thank you all so much. To celebrate you all, we are going to be giving away a signed Nico Collins jersey to one lucky subscriber. To enter into that giveaway, all you have to do is be a subscriber of the channel, comment on any one of our videos this week or our live stream on Sunday, and we will make sure to pick a winner. You have time to enter that this week, so that's a chance to also hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell as well, so you know when all of our newest content is up. But look, we just want to provide you all some of our fantasy football insights while reminding you of the fun and camaraderie that comes with the game of fake football that we all love. So thank you so much for 5K. Next stop is 10K subscribers. Fellas, let's keep it moving on these reactions, though. I think it was dumb to think Dallas's RB1 wouldn't do good. I disagree. I think it was totally okay to doubt whether Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, or Jaden Blue, who was a healthy scratch, had the potential to do good, because this Dallas Cowboys offensive line was like a large question coming into the season. Ty, I'll start with you here. What's your takeaway and reaction to Javonte Williams' week 1 performance? 15 carries, 54 yards, 2 scores. Currently, before Monday Night Football, the running back 3 on the week.
I don't want to put too much into the whole Jalen Carter ejection, but that played a big piece in this. And Javonte's touchdowns came when they were inside the 3. So it wasn't like Javonte Williams was having a ton of breakaway runs or anything like that. He was just taking advantage of the fact that this Dallas offense was taking advantage of Jalen Carter not being in and being able to drive the ball downfield. I also think Javonte was arguably the hottest hand in the backfield. Like you said, Jaden Blue was a healthy scratch. Miles Sanders, he fumbled later in the game, but Javonte was the hottest hand that they had. So they didn't really have any reason to take him off the field. And I was thinking about this too. Last year when Rico Dowdle was getting all the buzz about being the lead back, we bought in because we were hearing people that were seeing it with their own eyes. We didn't hear a lick of that with Javonte this year. We heard Miles Sanders is mixing in with the ones. Jaden Blue is mixing in with the ones. So sure, when you look on paper and you go, Javonte Williams is the best running back here, and you had that confidence going into week 1, your dividends were paid off. But I think at the same time, this was an ultimate wild card of a Dallas backfield.
Cameron, I'll ask you this question then. What do you do with Javonte going forward? Is he like cemented himself as Dallas's RB1 now? Is this something you can bank on week to week? Because let's be real. It's not like the Eagles are the least talented defensive line in the league just because they lost Jalen Carter. They got plenty of talent littered along that defensive line. So is this something or nothing from Javonte? What is his value moving forward?
I think it's definitely something. I think, obviously, if he doesn't have those 2 touchdowns, you're looking at 7.4 half PPR fantasy points. So it's not like you're overly excited. He's going to need touchdowns on a given week. I think he can, be fighting for that low end RB2 flex consideration week in and week out. We saw Miles Sanders, even on that breakout run he had, doesn't look great, right? It looks like he's hauling the piano.
He got caught. He got caught by a linebacker.
Well, I know Zach Bond's sitting there just throwing punches at the ball, just trying to get it out because he can keep up with him doing it. So, yeah, I think if anything, Jaden Blue, he might be a stash of, hey, if he can get on the field, be healthy, there is a path for him to take carries here. So I think Javonte, if somebody's going to pay up like a top 15 running back or something like that, get off
Javonte. Yep.
But you don't have to force selling him, right? He's going to continue to put up points because he's in a role that's going to produce at least for the meantime.
Yeah, I was going to say, from here on out, you're looking at Javonte Williams in your flex spot. If you need an RB2, if you're in a pinch, you can look towards Javonte Williams potentially. But I think he's in the flex conversation for sure. But like you said, if I'm going to capitalize on a poor week 1 performance from a different player, from a different wide receiver, from a different running back, I'm kind of okay using Javonte Williams as a bargaining chip of like, hey, he's Dallas's running back 1. And you know what? That offensive line didn't look half bad in week 1. It didn't look as bad as I anticipated it would be. I thought it would take some time for these guys to gel together as a unit. But here we are. Javonte Williams, a phenomenal week 1. We also then had a really fun game in Brazil as well this week where the Chargers absolutely showed out. Hot take number 1 from that game is Justin Herbert will finish as a top 3 quarterback this year. That's pretty spicy. I also want to give a little bit of pushback. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think what we saw in this game, fellas, was the Chargers unable to run the football against Kansas City Chiefs front, yet their secondary, Cameron, I kind of had miscues all over the place, and no better player than Justin Herbert, who, look, I still don't understand the whole social media quarterback narrative. It was the dumbest thing in the world to me. Justin Herbert clearly is a talented NFL quarterback. If he's able to take advantage of a secondary, he absolutely will.
Yeah, it's funny that we're picking on Justin Herbert when it's clear every time you watch him that he's incredibly talented. He makes plays all over the field. 318 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think the big thing for him is he did have another 7 carries for 32 yards on the ground. Yeah. So we're seeing that come back, which means he's feeling healthy, which is a great sign. Again, it's like Patrick Mahomes. It's like Joe Burrow. These guys who are decent running upside, who could throw a lot of touchdowns, throw a lot of passing yards, it's still incredibly difficult for them to be top 3. Because when you look at it, you have Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson that you got to pass. That's just the way that you have to look at it. I don't necessarily think that this is exactly what's going to happen week in, week out. I think he's going to be good. I think he's probably a top 10 guy. I just think top 3 with how crowded that top 3 is for quarterbacks is just a little too hot for me.
Yeah, and I'm not going to write it off as an impossibility because
no, for sure, it's definitely possible.
Where Justin Herbert just comes out and lights the league on fire this year. Does Greg Roman finally realize, hey, maybe we should just put it in Justin Herbert's hands more often because he's a really freaking good NFL quarterback. Ty, we'll talk about his pass catchers here in a moment, but what do you make of? Here, let me ask you this: do you think Justin Herbert starts to cool off here in the coming weeks, or is this just the start of the beginning? Because a lot of people were concerned with Amari and Hampton. I don't know, man. 15 carries, 48 yards, obviously barely over 3 yards per carry. That's not ideal, but let's not act like they didn't try and establish a run game of any variety here.
Yeah, I think we can expect similar performances. I should say passing volume in the next coming weeks, just because, again, I don't think that this run game is fully established just yet. You got a rookie running back. You got Najee Harris coming back into the fold. So there's going to be a lot of growing pains over the next couple of weeks. So I do think that they're going to fall back on the passing game, and for good reason. I mean, you've got a really good quarterback. You have a really, really solid receiving core now of Ladd McConkey, Quienten Johnston, and Keenan Allen. So I think we will need to reassess about halfway through the year once we get a run game kind of established here in this offense, and then it will change the upside. But I think until then, like, Herbert is a pretty solid, like, top 10, top 12 play on every week.
Let's talk about those pass catchers, because along with Justin Herbert's phenomenal 25-34 for 318 and 3 game that he had against the Chiefs, his receiving weapons all had really good days themselves. I mean, Quienten Johnston, hello. Quienten Johnston will be a solid flex pick each week. 7 targets with several red zone catches as well. Puts him in that flex consideration conversation. That is from the Lorax. Not actually, just his Discord display name. But where do I want to start? Because I do, Cameron, I want to make sure.
Keenan Allen, baby. QJ got lucky with the touchdowns, but Keenan Allen's back, and he is your top 20 guy as long as he is healthy. Yes, I was sitting on that for so long. I was so happy we were talking double chargers. If Keenan Allen doesn't get you excited to watch football, I don't know what does.
I have never been so happy to be cut off in my lifetime. It brought me a lot of joy, the fact I was cut off in that fashion. You're like, oh, nope, he's questioning where to start. I'm just going to jump right into it. Hey, look, we'll touch on Quienten Johnston in a moment, but we do need to touch on, yes, the Canes bet that Cameron and I made last week, where in half PPR formats, I thought Keenan Allen was going to be under 7 fantasy points. Cameron took the higher. Look, I'll say this. I wasn't too far off on where I thought Keenan Allen was going to finish for the day. I thought he'd have like a 4 for 45, a 4 for 50 kind of a day. Just so happens, that 5th reception goes for a touchdown. You just add 7 points on top of that. And I was sunk from there on out. So well played, good sir. I am happy to be wrong. Ty, I'll ask you about Keenan Allen, or not Keenan Allen, about Quienten Johnston here, though. Something or nothing here from QJ in week 1.
I think this is something, guys.
Oh,
I'm not
brother.
gonna lie.
Oh, baby.
I was thinking about this. What if Quienten Johnston has like a Jordan Addison type season for the Chargers, where it's not going to be great volume, but he kind of stands out as kind of a red zone target for Justin Herbert? I think that's kind of in the cards here. Now, in the more statistic perspective of things, Quienten Johnston is getting the important snaps here. He has the threat of Keenan Allen when they go into 3 wide receiver sets. But when it is just 2 receivers, it's Quienten Johnston and it's Ladd McConkey. So he's going to be on the field. And if we see a dip in passing volume, sure, that hurts the amount of opportunities, but at least he's still going to be on the field for passing down. So until further notice, call me crazy, but I think QJ is kind of a fringe top 36, and I think you can kind of throw him into your flex until we, and then I say all this, and I know that we're going to get like a catch for 18 yards next week. And
we
I'm
will.
going to look like the biggest idiot on planet Earth.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I'm really trying to hamper my expectations still of like, hey, we got a really phenomenal Justin Herbert game. What happens when they play a weaker defensive line than the Kansas City Chiefs? And it's actually Amari Hampton who's getting 17 totes for 95 yards and 2 scores. And then QJ, again, like you said, Ty, goes like 2 for 18 and 0 scores. And everyone's like, well, I guess it was nothing. I guess I overreacted. But Cameron, where do you lie on this? As someone who is very pro Keenan Allen, is there room for Ladd, Keenan, and QJ to all kind of play in this like top 40 range of wide receivers this year?
I think so, because we saw QJ finish as wide receiver 37 last year on the back of 8 touchdowns. It's just, it was exactly like Ty said. If you look at his stat lines, 3 catches for 38 yards, then 5 catches for 51 last season in week 2 for 2 touchdowns. Then 2 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown. Then 1 catch for 9 yards. That's what you're signing up for the Quienten Johnston experience. I don't expect that to change now. Maybe he's going to get a little bit better, but we've seen this from him before. We saw it last year in Cleveland, week 9, 4 catches, 118 yards and a touchdown. We've seen decent weeks from him. It's just we don't have the consistency there. So he is the definition of a better in best ball type of player.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like if you're on a week and you're going, I need someone at the flex and I can either get 6 half PPR points or I can shoot for 20 this week, Quienten Johnston is the guy to shoot for 20. You just got to realize, hey, I might also get 1.8.
Yeah, and if it's a strong defensive line and it's a weak secondary that you can pick on, I'm willing to play. Like, again, not every team is built like the Kansas City Chiefs, but if you can put 2 and 2 together there, like it's not a bad game to potentially fire up Quienten Johnston in your lineup. So I really don't mind this take and reaction after week 1. Let's move on to the afternoon slate of Sunday, though, fellas. Everyone who has JSN and CMC are cackling right now from the Sandman 14 over on Discord. This game was about 2 players in my mind, fellas. That's not true. The offense came through 2 players in this game, it felt like. It came 3 players, excuse me. I won't disrespect Slick Rick like that, but the Seahawks offense came through Jackson Smith and Jigba. And look, I said this was a possibility with Christian McCaffery. We'll touch on him in a moment. That, hey, what if the dude who has struggled with injuries his entire career picked up something that just happened to bother him on Thursday? And then, hey, you know what? Maybe we just rest him on Friday to make sure he's actually ready for week 1. I get PTSD kicked in and everybody was all panicked, but it was like the easiest spot of like for any other player, the process we're taking is, well, he's probably not practicing on Friday, so he's actually fully healthy and ready to go on Sunday. More on Christian McCaffery in a bit, but fellas, the stat from this game is 150 passing yards from Sam Darnold and 124 of them going to JSN, Cameron. I'm afraid this is going to be the Seattle Seahawks passing attack this year because, oh boy, Cooper Kupp did not look good. Torrey Horton needs some more time to develop.
Yeah, we saw JSN lining up on the outside more than he did last year. We saw 13.8 yards per reception from him. And the biggest worry about JSN is what if Sam Darnold turns back into pumpkin mode? Well, you kind of saw it week 1. And like you said, he still had 124 receiving yards. He proved it is JSN, and that is it. The question then becomes, and I assume we'll see this week 2 against Pittsburgh, what happens when he has the defense solely focus on him? Right? What happens if Pittsburgh brackets him the entire game? I still think for a guy like JSN, who's an incredible route runner, who's fantastic at getting open, I think he's going to be fine. I just don't know if we're going to see 9 for 124 every single week.
Yeah, I mean, Ty, this seems like best case scenario where the passing game stunk, but JSN was still successful. Is that like, I'm kind of wondering if that's just what it's going to be the entire year of, you know what, if Sam Darnold does only throw for 140 yards in the game, can we just kind of bank that 85 of them are probably just going to fall in JSN's lap?
I would err on the side of yes, just because what we saw with JSN in the usage was not just static usage or just one side of the field and you're just winning mano-a-mano. He got the 3 big concepts. He got the deep shots, he got the intermediate looks over the middle, and then he got the screens and some designed looks as well. So the passing game is JSN. He's getting moved across the formation. He's lining up on different spots. So honestly, I don't necessarily think that just if we get bad quarterback play from Sam Darnold, or that this offense is only going to consistently put up like 13, 17 points a week, that JSN is going to have bad performances. Because I also look at the run game here in Seattle, and Ken Walker's not really 100% right now. You could tell by the way he played.
I'm going to assume that's the takeaway. As someone who is very, very invested in Ken Walker this offseason, I'm doing my best to not overreact. I'm really doing my best to not overreact. But to say I'm concerned, or to say I'm not concerned, would be 100% false.
Yeah. So again, I think JSN, I don't want to overreact in week 1, but I feel like the takeaway for JSN is that like he is the offense here. Yes, the run game will help, but JSN is the guy here, and he's going to get a ton of looks.
Well, I want to turn the corner. Let's talk about Chris McCaffery in this game, though, Cameron, because what did he get? 32 opportunities in this game, 22 carries.
31.
I believe he got 8 or 10 targets in this game. I don't have the box score right up in front of me, but point being, what calf injury? I mean, you don't have a calf injury and go out and touch the ball as many times as Chris McCaffery did in this game. Look, obviously he's still king. And now with George Kittle being out, you've got Jawan Jennings also shoulder injury as well. I mean, this offense is very, very quickly consolidating itself, Cameron, as if it wasn't already going to be somewhat consolidated this year.
Yeah. The question was, is he healthy? Right. That's the only question, because if he's on the field and he's healthy, he's top 2 and he ain't 2. Right, that's Christian McCaffrey in fantasy football. We tried to tell you all year, like, it was worth, and we've already gotten the taste of what the Christian McCaffrey roller coaster is. Like you mentioned, Lucas, like, you're signing up for that. You get the upside, but you got to take the, he's not practicing today. Is he ever going to play again in the rest of his life? Kind of a deal. So that's what you get there. But yeah, he had 31 touches. He was second on the week out of every player in the NFL in receptions with 9. Next closest running back was Devon Achane with 23 touches. He's going to be good. He's a set it and forget it rest of the year. I don't care if there's, he's questionable. If he's out there, he's playing, and they're going to give him the ball. We saw it last year when he came back for those 4 games. We've seen it again. If he's out there, he gets the ball 20 plus times.
Yeah, the perfect way to sum this up is Josh Norris had tweeted after Chris McCaffrey's big game, y'all just don't deserve CMC. If you were questioning him, if you were clowning him, like, oh, nope, he might not play in week 1. Oh no, the sky's falling. Like, flat out, y'all just didn't deserve Christian McCaffrey if you avoided him on your fantasy football teams anyways this year. Again, I'm not retracting the statement that I made this offseason of like, hey, I get it if you just don't want to draft the guy. If you don't want the anxiety roller coaster that's Christian McCaffrey every week, hey, I get it. It probably helps you live a happier and healthier life. But for us sickos out there who are truly playing to win championships, like you said, Cameron, when Christian McCaffrey's out there, he's top 2, and 95% of the time, he ain't 2. We got more reactions coming up from you all shortly here, but let's take a quick break here from our friends over at Underdog, how you can be more invested in the NFL this season. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog, where you can get into the game this season playing Pick'em. It's extremely simple. Just pick higher or lower on 2 or more of your favorite players. For example, I'll pick the highers on Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Xavier Worthy. If I played $10 and got all 3 of them right, I would win $60 just by watching football. And that's the beauty of Pick'em. You can track your picks and your wins while you enjoy the game. Now, if you're not on Underdog yet, scan the QR code on your screen or use our code FELLAS when you sign up, because new customers will get $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5 on the app. Plus, Underdog will give you a free pick to use in your first entry. Again, that's code FELLAS over on Underdog. Now let's get you back to the rest of the show. Alrighty, fellas, let's keep it chugging along here and kick it back to the early portion of the Sunday slate. Hey, Marvin Harrison Jr., breakout year, baby, from King Crouton over on Discord. I will say, it was very nice as a Kyler Murray manager to get some Marvin Harrison touchdown notifications on my phone pop up on Sunday. Oh, Marv made a big play. Oh, Marv scored a touchdown. Hey, Ty, I'll start with you. Are we back? Is this it? Is it the breakout season for Marv?
I can't get there just yet.
I can't either, for what it's worth.
I will certainly keep the optimism that we can have an improved year 2 compared to year 1. But in terms of a breakout, I've still got some questions about this Arizona offense. Not necessarily in terms of how they're going to score or how they're going to play. I have questions on the Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison connection. Okay. If you go back and watch the game, you go back and watch the film. I counted 3 times where Kyler Murray, like, actively passed up on an open Marvin Harrison Jr. because he wanted to take it himself. So maybe the question or the concern that I really have lies on Kyler Murray's decision-making here. And that's not to say that, like, he needs to find Marv on every single pass attempt and every single drop back, because again, Marv caught 5 for 71 and a touchdown, but I feel like that's just going to cap the ceiling, is that we're not going to get the waterfall of opportunities that you would see a CeeDee Lamb get or a Jamar Chase get. And the Marvin Harrison Jr. is just going to be stuck with what he gets, and he can make the most of them, but it's just not going to be a whole lot of it.
You also don't get to play the New Orleans Football Saints every single week either. I'm not going to act like, Cameron, this is the most difficult secondary to face in the NFL. And yet this game was only a touchdown apart. I mean, the Cardinals only won by 1 score. It's not like they went out and routed the Saints, and Marv was a big part of that. I'm kind of with Ty. I need to see it for more than one game. I love 5 for 71 and 1. I love 18 fantasy points in full PPR formats. But man, I need to see it for more than one game. I need to see Marv fully, and Kyler and Marv fully in sync. Yes, Kyler Murray's going to scramble. There's going to be times where he probably misses a wide open Marv, but again, there's this pattern we talked about before the season started of you're probably going to get 2-3 good games of Kyler Murray, and then there's just going to be a game cam where he just completely turns into a pumpkin.
Yeah. I just want to read real quick some of the wide receivers who finished in the top 10 last season in week 1. Jaden Reed was 1, Cooper Kupp 2, Allen Lazard 3, Tyreek Hill 4, J-Mo 5, Mike Evans 6, AJ Brown 7, Alec Pierce, 8, Xavier Worthy 9, and Stephon Diggs 10. So it's just a reminder that week 1 isn't sticky. With that being said, was it good to see Marv, get score a touchdown? Was it good to see him get 7 targets? Yes. I think obviously he's going to continue to be improved in this offense. It's the step you wanted to see towards the second year breakout. But like Ty said, it's a little premature to go, he's done it, he's arrived, he's here. Because there are other factors than just, is he taking a step forward? Is Kyler going to hold him back? How is it going to look? It was exactly what I wanted to see from Marv. Still seeing 14 yards per reception, still getting open, still catching touchdowns. It's just, is everything else going to come together when, like you said, Lucas, they're not playing the New Orleans Saints?
21 of 29 for only 163 yards. Kyler Murray went for this week. 2 touchdowns. Great. Again, not a bad day from Kyler Murray, but again, Kyler Murray is not this guy like a Dak Prescott who's slinging the ball around the yard. He's not, even a Justin Herbert, who we just talked about, right? There's like a gap there with Kyler Murray in terms of what he does with his arm. You would have liked to seen him take more of that Justin Herbert step, right? Where he can force feed a Ladd McConkey, where Kyler can start to force feed a Marv, but is it going to remain intact when they aren't playing debatably the worst team in the NFL on a week-to-week basis? Though, let me rephrase. The second worst team in the NFL. We'll talk about the worst team in the NFL later, but let's keep it moving. Another fun game on the early slate, fellas. Emeka Egbuka will be the highest scoring wide receiver on the Bucs and the highest scoring rookie wide receiver in the league by the end of the year, from our friend Kevin.
It's Kevin.
Just because it's Kevin. Look, I don't mind the take in terms of the highest scoring wide receiver on the Bucs. And based on what we saw from the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, they don't take a step forward. I think he could outscore Tet. Travis Hunter got fed the ball a lot. I think we can have a conversation about Travis Hunter. Nobody submitted anything about Travis Hunter, which I was kind of surprised by. But Cam, what's your biggest takeaway from Emeka Egbuka in week 1? 4 for 67, 2 scores in week 1. You got to absolutely love what this potentially means for his outlook this year.
For sure. I think until Chris Godwin's back, he was on the field for almost every snap. He was utilized heavily. He's going to be that guy until Chris Godwin gets back. But I just don't think we can forget that Godwin was paid $60 million over 3 years this year. And I understand, but he's going to be injured. Egbuka looks good. All those things can be true, and they're still going to utilize Chris Godwin. Jalen McMillan is still going to factor into this offense when he gets back as well. So, yeah, Egbuka has a little bit of a runway. Yes, he can look good. But my thing is, too, if he doesn't score 2 touchdowns, you're just looking at 4 catches for 67 yards. And that's why I'm not ready to say, hey, he's the best. I think he's going to be fantastic.
I don't like that argument.
But my argument with that is it wasn't like it was insane volume, where it's every single week. It's
8 targets.
Crazy. 6 targets.
6 targets, excuse me. I was Mike Evans with 8.
Yeah, so exactly. And so that's why, and it's still Mike Evans. I understand if touchdowns are going to be sticking with anyone on this offense, it's Mike Evans. So that's why I'm not ready to say he's overtaking Mike Evans. I'm not ready to say that he's the best wide receiver in the Bucs. And I'm still think Tet and Travis Hunter are good enough arguments that I'm not going to say he's the best rookie wide receiver.
So now you don't want to live a little, huh?
No.
We talked about this on our hot takes episode before the season.
Hold on.
We got to live a little. Oh, you're going to come in and shoot this down too?
No, he doesn't want to live a little because it's Kevin. And if he says it and Kevin's right, then he's got to live with it.
I've been lower on Egbuka this whole time, and I'm going to stay that way until he makes me eat my words, which would be, come week 6 if he still looks like this. So I'm just pumping the brakes a little bit, saying it's week 1. I need to see a little bit more.
Can I also remind you that Kirk Cousins was guaranteed $100 million by the Atlanta Falcons, and he barely made it through 12 games last year, 14 games?
That's true, but he did tear his Achilles, and he wasn't a hometown favorite, and they drafted Penix 8th. I understand Egbuka's 21st, but
like what's to say? Like I think it's totally. I brought this up when we talked about Egbuka on our hot takes episode before the season. I thought it was rich that he would be a top 10 wide receiver this year, but I also said there is definitely a world where once Chris Godwin comes back, Egbuka is just flat out looks better than Chris Godwin. I don't know. Have your thoughts shifted on that philosophy at all? Because I'm of the mindset now where I'm like that percentage after week 1 definitely increased because it did look like a good week from Emeka Egbuka out there.
I think when Chris Godwin comes back, the best way to look at Emeka Egbuka is that the ceiling just takes a step down just because, again, it's another mouth to feed. And it's not just another mouth. It's Chris Godwin, who has been in Tampa Bay for his whole career, right? So that being said, though, there is a world where Emeka Egbuka, honestly, is the best Tampa wide receiver on this team.
There's a world.
Like Mike Evans, maybe we start to see a little bit of regression. Not saying it happened in this game, but at year's end, we may look back and go, I think Mike Evans, father time, kind of caught up to him a little bit now. Chris Godwin may not be the same player, at least in the ramp-up period, and then we'll see what it's like the last, 6 weeks of the season, last 7 weeks of the season. So there is a world where Emeka Egbuka just kind of goes from strength to strength and kind of emerges as the best. Now, that doesn't mean either that he's going to get the volume to go with it, just because, again, there are mouths to feed. And Bucky Irving is now the dude. He is a guy now that a lot of people were kind of hoping for, and they got it in this game. So there's a lot of ifs and buts, but I ultimately come back to, again, there is a world where Emeka Egbuka can be the best receiver on Tampa at year's end.
So Emeka Egbuka showdown in week 1. Let's move on to a wide receiver that a user presented a very valid question for. Where was Nico Collins at? From Talia Finn over on Instagram. Where was Nico Collins at, fellas? This was not. Neither team wanted to win this game between the Texans and the Rams. CJ Stroud, 19-27 for 188. Jaden Higgins was the leading wide receiver for the Texans, 2 receptions for 32 yards. Nico Collins only gave you 4 fantasy points this week. To me, Cameron, this just felt like a game that had shootout potential. I mean, we saw Puka Nacua on the other side of the ball. Holy crap, that dude, certified alpha, Puka Nacua. I mean, literally bandaged to the face, took a nasty gash to the face, was on and off the field, basically like making sure this bandage stayed on. And he racked up 10 for 130 against the Texans. But for whatever reason, we couldn't get the same out of Nico Collins. I was really hoping, Cam, we would get this back and forth between Nico Collins and Puka Nacua. You get Devontae Adams mixed in the red zone, but it would just be this like Nico Collins. You look at the end of the day, 7 for 120 and 1, and you're just absolutely ecstatic you took him at the end of the first round.
Yeah, it was really disappointing. And we're throwing up these next-gen wide receiver charts for most of these guys if they were out there. And you'll see Nico's come on the screen. And let me just tell you, it's bad.
It's really bad.
If you're looking at everybody else's, it's their movement across the field. Nico's looks like he played for, or he was D-Hop with Cliff Kingsbury running like 6 routes. And it's just it was awful. And so I don't know what happened. I don't know where this came from. Nick Caley's got to figure this out quick, or he's not going to be in Houston very long if this is what they're going to look like.
Yeah, seriously,
this amount of weapons. So I would assume they changed it up a little bit next week. I'm not ready to panic or anything on Nico Collins, but yes, it was extremely disappointing, especially as somebody who has him in 3 of my 4 dynasty leagues and was really banking on a good week from him. Helped me manage to drop 59 half PPR points.
Nice.
So
good golf score. Good golf score.
It was great. Highest projected team of the week, and then I lost to everybody in the league by 20 points. So that was just a great week for me all around.
Just a great week to be a Nico Collins manager, Ty. What's your level of panic here? Do we want to play a game of panic meter here? Can we do that? Where are we at? 0 panic meter of 0 being you're just as confident as you were day one when you drafted Nico. 10 on the panic meter is I will literally trade him away for Jamal Agnew in my fantasy league right now.
I'm probably sitting at like a 5 or a 6.
Oh,
I'm
really?
not gonna lie.
That's higher than I expected. Okay.
When you guys, or I should say when Cam was saying like I'm not full blown panic, I'm like I'm a little more full blown panicked here.
Wow.
Because like the usage was not good, but we just need to call a spade a spade. The entire offense was horrific.
Yeah,
it was the worst outcome possible for a new play caller and some elite talent in Nico Collins and CJ Stroud at the helm. This offensive line was just as bad, which was always in the cards. So I don't want to make it sound like I was completely surprised that happened, but they were just as bad. No easy looks, no easy routes, no easy concepts for pass catchers. This offense was super static. Reach Rebar tweeted out, this Texans offense was bottom 10 in motion rate and play action rate of all teams in week 1 so far. And he was targeted on 16% of his routes.
Oh,
that was his lowest since 2023. So we're not even getting like, okay, when in doubt, get the ball to Nico Collins. So it's one game. Like I said, I'm a 5 or a 6 because I'm not full-blown panic just yet. But honestly, I did not think that Nico Collins specifically had this low of a floor if this offense is as static as it is. And if it happens again next week, I'm going to be really, 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 really sad.
I mean, I that's definitely more than where I'm at. I'm probably at like a 2 or a 3 here with Nico, just because I believe in the talent of Nico Collins. I think there's time for Nick Caley to turn this thing around. I also don't think you're going to play a defensive line as ferocious as the Los Angeles Rams every single week. So if this look, I understand the Houston Texans offensive line ain't great. They're not gonna look any better necessarily against a worse defensive line, but I also don't think it's going to be a rinse and repeat against every defensive line here like we got with the okay. What? Go ahead, chime in. I was going to finish my thought, but now
do you know who they play next week?
And node. Oh gosh, I don't know. Remind me.
They play Tampa.
Oh gosh. Okay, yeah. Maybe we should be a little bit more panicked. I'm not saying go sell Nico for chump change, but
he's fine.
The Tampa secondary that can't be thrown on though.
He's fine.
But will CJ Stroud have time to throw the ball? I mean, Vita Vea coming right down Broadway.
Down the middle.
Just look, there's a lot of ways that this can still play out. But gosh, there is not a lot of good to kind of latch onto here to give you some hope that it can turn around.
Go ahead, Cameron. You can chime in here. You're clearly not as concerned.
Now, I mean, Drake London had 15 targets last week against. I mean, obviously only caught 8 of them. Kyle Pitts had 7 catches for 59 yards. I mean, you can throw on them. I think they're going to turn it around.
Stream of the week, Kyle Pitts.
That was a great call. I was very happy for you that you got to redeem yourself.
That's my one victory lap. Yeah.
But I'm at maybe a 2, still probably closer to a 1. Nico's unbelievably talented.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those where it's gross. You got to remember, like last year, week 1, Bengals had 164 passing yards, and then Joe Burrow was in MVP conversations the rest of the season. So I think it's still a little too early to be worried even a little on Nico.
Let's talk about a wide receiver who definitely had a better week 1 than Nico Collins, but also comes with like a pretty spicy take here. Jakobi Meyers will finish as a top 12 wide receiver this year from Hendrik Ethan over on Instagram. Great day for Jakobi Meyers as the Raiders beat the Patriots 20-13. It was still Brock Bowers, though, 5 for 103, yet seemed to get nicked up in this game, fellas. Where does Jakobi Meyers kind of fall after week 1 in your rankings? Ty, I'll start with you on this one. Where does Jakobi fall? Kind of with, it seems like Brock Bowers came out and said he was fine afterwards. So I'm guessing he probably plays next week, but also some like just weird utilization things going on right now in the Chip Kelly offense for Brock Bowers. I don't want to blow that out of proportion and make this a Brock Bowers bit, but it factors into the conversation of Jakobi Meyers.
It does. And honestly, it's to the benefit of Jakobi Meyers then, because the less that Brock Bowers is on the field when Jakobi is on the field, the more often that Jakobi Meyers is probably going to be targeted, because outside of Jakobi Meyers, again, we're looking at Dante Thornton, we're looking at Jack Bech, we're looking at Trey Tucker, the next Santana Moss, let me remind you of that. So again, the less that we see of Brock Bowers and Jakobi Meyers on the field together, the better it should be for Jakobi Meyers. So honestly, I feel like Jakobi is going to be a really solid kind of wide receiver 3 because of the volume that will be there. The question will just be, are we ever going to find the end zone? He might fall into the end zone 4 or 5 times this year. So I don't want to sit here and be like, yeah, he's a solid wide receiver 3 and he has wide receiver 2 upside, because I don't know how often we're going to get that kind of stat line or those kind of fantasy points from him. But if you're looking for just a solid play, a guy that can probably just get you 7-8 targets, 6-7 catches, 6-7. I don't hate Jakobi Meyers. I think top 12 is...
You don't get to make that joke.
What?
You are way too old to do that. That is ridiculous.
6-7.
6-7.
Unreal.
You can cancel us now.
You can. Top 12 is rich. Just because, again, I just don't know how often this Vegas offense will be able to find the end zone, and specifically for Jakobi then.
8 for 97 this week, Cameron. What's his ceiling in your book?
I think his ceiling is honestly what JSN did last year with Geno.
Hey.
Where JSN was wide receiver 10 and half PPR, but if you look like a points per game type of thing, he's down closer to wide receiver 20. But he could slide in just because he plays all 17 games. He's getting close to 140 targets. It's just quick passes, 10, 11 yards per reception. Maybe scores 5 or 6 touchdowns. I think that's his upside. And I think he slid in everybody's rankings because of the whole trade thing that came up.
Yeah.
And it was, what's going to happen with Jakobi Meyers? Is he a Raider? Is he going to play week 1? What's going on? And then all of a sudden he comes out and does this. And you're like, well, I guess he's the same Jakobi Meyers who finished, was he wide receiver 14 over the last 8 weeks last season? So Jakobi Meyers, yeah, I mean, he's got a decent upside. He's not going to light the world on fire.
No.
But he's going to be consistent enough that he might be right around that range. And it's going to feel kind of gross every week when you're like, this guy actually might be my wide receiver 1 right now. But, it's just going to be the truth.
It will get to a point potentially where, yeah, you're talking about Jakobi Meyers as like, wow, he might be my wide receiver 2 and not my flex play every single week that I'm like locking Jakobi in over some of my other wide receiver 2s on my team. Helps when Geno Smith 24 or 34 for 362. If we get that kind of play out of Geno Smith week in and week out, obviously that's to the benefit of Jakobi Meyers and Brock Bowers too, who can still have himself a day. And, if you get 200 yards between the two of them and Geno's still throwing for 350, only good things can come from that for fantasy football. Ty, let's close out with your start of the week as well. We all get. Oh, go ahead. You want to chime in beforehand?
No, Cam, what did you say Jakobi Meyers was from week 8 on last year?
Wide receiver 14. Wide receiver 18. Sorry.
I heard wide receiver 8 and I was like,
no.
No.
I very clearly heard 14. I don't know where you got 8
wide receiver 18. Wide receiver 18. I was off by 4. That's my bad, Ty. I'm sorry.
I'll blame the shoddy Wi-Fi today. It lagged for me, so.
Ty's shoddy Wi-Fi. Well, we'll give him a chance to do a victory lap here before his Wi-Fi totally goes out. Michael Pittman from Brown Sugar over on Discord is going to finish better than Davante Adams this year. A hot take coming out of week 1, but Ty, it was a great call from you against this Miami secondary in a routing of the Miami Dolphins, who, fellas, might be the worst team in the National Football League right now. It was... I don't want to make this a Miami Dolphins bit because, my gosh, it was absolutely terrible. And I really want to give the Colts their flowers because Danny Dimes tore this defense up. This is what Shane Steichen was hoping for out of this offense, where you can get a 22 of 29 from Daniel Jones for 272 and a score. That score, Ty, went to Michael Pittman, 6 for 80 yards. Great call on your part, having him as your start of the week.
I honestly, what it comes down to was just that Josh Downs was battling an ankle injury during training camp. And so I said, well, if there's a guy that Daniel Jones probably built a rapport with, it was with Michael Pittman Jr. And we talked about the corners. We talked about the Miami defense's secondary. So honestly, Michael Pittman, as long as Daniel Jones is the starter, I think you can consider Michael Pittman in your to be like your wide receiver 3 in your flex spot. Now, we talked about Daniel Jones over on our Discord as a waiver option. And I kind of drove the narrative on that one because it's like, I wouldn't add Daniel Jones just yet because we're going up against Denver. Then we're getting Tennessee then the week right after. So honestly, I might eat my words because if Michael Pittman draws Pat Surtain, it might be Jover because Pat Surtain might just be the best corner in the NFL. And I don't think I think he is. So
yeah,
I honestly, it was good to see Michael Pittman kind of emerge as one of the preferred targets other than Tyler Warren. But to say that he's going to be better than Adams and Davante Adams, or even, I think that's it's a bit of a stretch in my opinion.
Stretch for you too, Cam?
Yeah. And I do want to say, Ty, you can have your flowers, but I did say top 36 wide receiver above Josh Downs, Michael Pittman in the draft guide. So that's why you check out our draft guide. But
oh, dude, what? You tried to draft guide victory lap?
A week 1 victory lap on the draft guide?
Yes.
What?
Hey, Michael
No,
Pittman.
I thought we were better than this.
No, not on Michael Pittman. I agree. I think, unfortunately, you're right, Ty, of Pat Surtain is, I'm not saying he is, I'm just saying he's reaching that level of like Darrelle Revis for fantasy matchups where you can actually start good wide receiver or sit good wide receivers against him because it's just not worth playing them. He is not Darrelle Revis. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying he's reaching that.
He's getting to that point.
Tier of, from a fantasy aspect. Yeah, he's actually one of the few that you do worry about for guys who aren't that top 12 rank. So I will say I like seeing it from Pittman. I am worried about Josh Downs from a usage aspect.
Yeah.
Only ran 17 routes. He was the wide receiver 3 in usage, and Tyler Warren's there now. It was very concerning for me. You said you were 6 for Nico. I'm like 6 or 7 for Josh Downs on a panic meter right now.
I mean, for the usage that, again, not to turn this into a Tyler Warren bit, but for the usage Tyler Warren got, I mean, that's all like 2 wide receiver sets that you're going to see that in, right? When Josh Downs is out there, sure, Tyler Warren will be out there as well, but when Josh Downs is on the field, he's got to get the ball. Otherwise, yeah, it's probably a bunch of 2 wide receiver sets, and they're just going to utilize Tyler Warren as the Josh Downs in that case. So, yeah, great news for Tyler Warren if you drafted him. Bad news for Josh Downs if you drafted him. Michael Pittman, I'm kind of with Ty. If the matchup is there, I think he's actually probably going to be the Colts wide receiver to play instead of Josh Downs. To get up to Devontae Adams, I'm not there. I need to see it. I need to see another week from this Rams team in a game that they actually want to try and win, not whatever they kind of did against the Houston Texans to slither by. But Michael Pittman, hey, still a seemingly good flex option now for fantasy football. Fellas, let's close it out. 3 quick hitters of our own, maybe not necessarily hot takes, but 3 of our biggest takeaways and applications from week 1. Cameron, I'll start with you. Breece Hall has been your guy. Man, it was really good to see. You know what? He's just flat out the most talented running back on this team. And maybe, you know what? The Jets coaching staff should just shut up and let talent win out here.
And that was my thing the whole time, why I truly couldn't get behind Braylon Allen, because of my worry was Breece was just going to look like Breece when it came to Braylon Allen. And I think he showed that on Sunday that, yes, he is going to. Obviously, it's still a little bit of a worry. Only saw 4 targets, 2 receptions with Justin Fields for the receiving work being capped. But to see him up around 5.6 yards per attempt, to see the disparity and rush attempts, they were closer to a 60-40 split, him and Allen, as far as snaps went. But when Breece was on the field, they went, hey, we only have 2 playmakers. It's Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. So if it's not going to Garrett Wilson, it's going to Breece Hall. And I think we saw that. So that gave me a ton of confidence for Breece moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely feel a lot better about Breece after this performance. I question what it'll be when they aren't in the second highest scoring game of the week. Excuse me. What does the volume look like? What does the yardage look like then? But based on what you saw from Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen this week, should only give you confidence about Breece Hall. Ty, I'll let you in for your quick hitter here. You and I are going to talk about the same game. And unfortunately, we'll talk about negative points here, but Matthew Golden, not a great showing in week 1.
Not at all. This was kind of worst case scenario. And everything that we had been hearing throughout the offseason seemed to just be a flat out lie, because if he was the most talented receiver, he definitely did not get the play time to back that up. 43.5% route per dropback rate in this game. That's from Fantasy Points data and Derek Brown. Look, he's just another dude on the Packers. He's just another dude in this wide receiver room until further notice. He was behind Dontavian Wicks in terms of roll and snap rate in 2 receiver sets. This isn't a full-blown panic. This is just more so disappointment. Because, again, everything had been hyped up to be that Matthew Golden is the most talented guy in this receiver room, and he just didn't get on the field enough. And it's really going to be, stash him away until further notice, because there is talent here still that he can emerge maybe second half of the year, but there is nothing going on for Matthew Golden right now to say that he should be in your lineups moving forward.
I think it's a little bit harsh to just call Matthew Golden a jag, but I get it at the same time, right? Like, the snap share wasn't there. It seemed like he would be the wide receiver. Jaden Reed, could hardly walk a week ago, and now he's out here catching touchdowns. And
Beaver tranquilizers.
Yeah, seriously, just Beaver tranquilizers for the win. Jaden Reed had those on high dosage coming into this week. So he got out there and he I mean, maybe eat my words on Matthew Golden. I thought he'd be a key part in this game, especially when the Packers got such a big jump on the Detroit Lions, where I'm like, great, Matthew Golden, he's got to be a part of that, right? Nope. 2 for 16, wide receiver 80 going into Monday Night Football. Last player I want to talk about, not even player. I'm talking about a team. I'm just going to put a specific player on the screen. I'm going to put Jahmyr Gibbs on the screen, but my takeaway is that all of our nightmares about the Detroit Lions this offseason are maybe coming to fruition this year. And the one player we always talked about not being affected was Jahmyr Gibbs. Still had 9 rush attempts. He caught 10 passes in this game. Yet on nearly 20 touches, fellas, he only got 50 yards. The volume is going to be there for Jahmyr Gibbs. Better days are ahead for Jahmyr Gibbs. But looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown, looking at Sam Laporta, looking at Jameson Williams, I said it. If all these dudes are supposed to bounce back, yet we're concerned about Ben Johnson leaving, something has to give. I just didn't expect in week 1 it was going to be literally everybody. Sam Laporta was still fine. For 6 for 79, 13.9 fantasy points. He was the one that managed to make it out okay in this game. But I don't think it's always going to be Sam Laporta, because Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't going to have a bad game every week. Jameson Williams isn't going to have a bad game every week. But are we going to see it like last year, where this offense can support 5 fantasy relevant assets that are all top 25 at their position? I just flat out don't believe that based on what I saw in week 1. So I jokingly put out a tweet. I can't remember the username, right? It's like extreme overreaction from week 1. Mike McDaniel's the Lions offensive coordinator coming this season. Look, man, if John Morton doesn't turn it around, I'm not saying we're looking at a short tenure here, but something has to give in terms of fantasy football. And it might be a game of roulette which week you're going to get which performing player for your fantasy lineup on the Detroit Lions. Where do you both sit? I know we didn't deliberate the other 2 points, but I'm curious where you two kind of lie on this Lions team.
I think it'll be interesting next week to see, is this just the Packers are truly a Super Bowl favorite this season and they are just a dominant team, or is Ben Johnson, Frank Ragnow, like that going to affect this team that much? And I think it could be a little bit of both. Rich Rebar put out a tweet as well. Lions averaged 3.8 yards per play in week 1. Ugh. That was their fewest since 2020. They only had 10.8% of their plays go for over 10 yards. Ben Johnson only had 1 game in his entire tenure worse than that. So it was, as bad as we've seen from the Lions offensively in 5 years. So yeah, you should be a little bit concerned. I'm not ready to hit the panic meter on everybody, because I do think they just have so much talent on this team. But week 2 is going to be very telling. And I think if we see this again, I think, you can really start to panic on some Lions players.
Same bow tie, or do you have a little bit more confidence?
I don't know exactly if I would call it confidence, but I think it's alarming, to say the least. Yeah. I didn't think that this was a possibility. You just look at Jared Goff's passing chart over from Next Gen Stats. Again, 8 of the passes were 10 yards down the field out of 39. So either Green Bay was playing so far, downfield, playing some shell coverage that Detroit could only take the stuff underneath, or this is just what this John Morton led offense is going to be. And if that's the case, boy, I don't really know then where to kind of pinpoint what the bright spots are or where to latch on for some hope. But I think it's alarming. To say that this means nothing is not correct, and that we need to pay closer attention to Detroit now in week 2 to see exactly how they're lined up and how they play.
If you want to get in on these videos every week, we're going to do one after every week of the NFL season. Make sure you're following our socials. We post over on X, FFLs over there. We post on our Instagram story, the FFLs over there. We post on Facebook, Fantasy Football Fellas. And then you can follow our TikTok as well, Fantasy Football Fellas there as well. If you want to enjoy more shorts content and you're a YouTube person through and through, Fantasy Football Fellas shorts there. Otherwise, we do post in the community tab on our channel as well to get your points of feedback, your takeaways, your reactions, your hot takes from each week of the fantasy football season. So make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell as well, so you know when we post in that tab and when our newest content is also up. You can follow our personal socials as well. I am at Lucas Wenzel on X, CamLaw FFF for Cameron, Tyler _Plath for Ty. We'll see you tomorrow. We got some trade candidates coming for you all. We'll see you then. Deuces.